Hey, welcome back to another Black City Coffee vlog. In this video, we are cupping this coffee from Chinatown Coffee Roasters. This is interesting because it's from China, which is cool. It's like Chinatown Coffee Roasters. I'd love to know the story behind Chinatown Coffee Roasters. Obviously, it's probably going to be in Chinatown, Los Angeles, if I'm correct. Anyway, it's from Menglian, China, single origin, altitude 1,400 plus meters in elevation. It's a washed processed coffee. I actually cupped this already like really quickly. I was so excited. I did film it, but I thought I would bring it to the set. So let's have a look here. Whew, all right. We don't know the varietal of this coffee. I thought my first impression and notes were actually pretty good, so I'm gonna roll that clip right now. Washed, dry fragrance, brown butter, pie crust. First sip says it was hot. I was getting this like underdeveloped sort of, you know, it's very light, very soft, but in a good way. Flavor, I guess. It's soft, it's creamy, it's got milk chocolate, it's cherry pie. Started to round out in the sweetness too when it's cooling. I think it's into its like, you know, 10th minute, and then lime. So that's the primary flavors that I'm getting. If I want to talk about, you know, trying to break down terroir, varietal, I don't know the varietal, but I'm getting a lime element, and that typically comes in, I think, in the primary flavors, like so terroir and varietal and things like that. And then with processing, I think that's the creaminess, right? And even the cherry pie, that's coming through too, I think, in the processing. So in the washed, it's got a very nice, soft, delicate body. And then to support it all, like the roasted flavors are the milk chocolate flavors. So very good, Chinatown. Thank you for this coffee. I just cupped this really quick. Now, I just rolled that clip. However, I don't remember what I said. Okay, so we're going to compare it now to here. And another comparison that we're going to do is against these Guatemalan coffees from Collaborative Origins. And I did some tests on these based on whether or not you should do 50-gram samples or 100-gram samples on the Ikawa Home. Spoiler alert, do 100-gram samples. Okay, so I'm going to have Chinatown Coffee Roasters. Put this right here. It's a light roasted coffee. Doesn't say light roast on here. Roasted on October 15th. Today is October 31st, so happy Halloween. A lot of chaff here present. Interesting for a washed processed coffee. Generally, yeah, a light color. Some different colors going on in some of the roasted coffee here. Okay, and we're gonna put it against, let's just pick one. The middle one right here, number 6. We don't even know what number 6 is. So both wash processed coffees, one's from Guatemala, one's from China. Wow. So yeah, China is more and more coming up and making coffee, growing coffee out there. Why not, right? Another thing, why not, is maybe it's could be a little far from the coffee belt. What does that do to the terroir, to the varietal, to the, you know, the flavors of coffee? Evidently, you know, it's an interesting question. The last coffee that I tasted from China that was already roasted, it'd be interesting to roast some Chinese coffee, I think. It was not very good. I didn't really like it. Seemed kind of one note for how much it was, you know, how expensive it was. So I thought I could have spent less for the same flavors. Okay, there's like a green tomato on the vine, a little bit of stewed tomato, which that note now that I know after like doing a little bit more, you know, in depth on cupping and such, is a underdevelopment note. Doesn't mean it's bad, doesn't mean it's necessarily good, but that's a, like, I think it's cool to like categorize it in the brain where you go, I'm smelling tomatoes on the vine, kind of green, vegetal. That's like it categorized in underdeveloped category, I guess, but not a bad thing per se. But it makes sense too that it's a light roast, right? And if that was your goal as a roaster, it would check out. Okay, sort of milky, chocolatey, jammy thing. Definitely more roastier in terms of this coffee. So if we can smell like off the bat, in terms of like roastiness, which is where the caramelization, the chocolate, the milk chocolate, the toasty stuff, that comes from the roast itself. Now, if we can smell that already in the dry, I think, and we're comparing roasts, I could smell that already here. That should signal to me that one is maybe the finishing temp is higher, or it's just generally roasted longer. So just categorizing, just like taking stock, taking data, okay? Color-wise, it's hard to tell with these lights, but this one is darker. Okay, cool. Let's get some water. So another thing we can do at this point while we're waiting is to smell the crust. This is the crust. Grape nuts to me. It's always grape nuts. So I believe some air has gotten into this coffee, Chinatown. But at least I got my, first impression when I first opened this bag. But yeah, it's not, like the most opportune time to cup this coffee now. But same thing with these. Like, these have been exposed to air for, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 days now, since that test. I think it would still be good. It's still relatively fresh, Also, full transparency, when I first cupped your coffee, Chinatown, I was like, I nudged this table, which I'm getting a new one, finally, because it's totally breaking down, and some grounds spilt out. So that could have been affecting my taste. So I was really excited to come back and do it correctly and do another cupping, albeit we're cupping it a little bit later than I'd like. But, we just do our best over here. I really, really appreciate the sending of coffee for me to cup and make some content on, for sure. But full transparency, just letting you know what's up. Okay. Just gonna break the crust, smell that. Wait. Yeah, just baked grape nuts. It's like a nutty baked cereal. If you've ever had grape nuts. Now we're just trying to clean up these cups in terms of like removing chaff, or so that when we take a nice slurp of the coffee, it's clean. All right, it's too hot right now. The colors are really similar, and it's hard to tell with this lighting, as always, right? This has a little bit more oils in it, which could tell me something like, oh, it's maybe roasted a little bit longer, maybe a little more caramelization, flavors could be in there because, there's more oils present. So with coffee, the longer you roast it, more oil can kind of like pull to the surface of the seed, of the bean. And these are clearly very lightly roasted. I wonder what it was roasted on. Very light roast. I'd venture to say, maybe 387, 389, like that, finishing temp. And that's based off, like, I'm remembering now, like, my first impression cupping, because I was just like, oh, wow, this, like, tastes really familiar to some of my lighter roasts that I was finishing very light, you know? And I liked it like that, you know? But now that I'm, like, getting into the holidays, I'm wanting a bolder cup. Or I'm just kind of like, taste is all over the place. Like, it's always evolving, always changing, which is interesting, where sometimes I'll be like so acid head, like so acid forward, especially like say in the summer or something. And then as the colder weather comes in, not today, the colder weather coming in, I'll want something bolder. You know, maybe I'll want to throw some like milk in there or something. But yeah. Taste is always changing, always evolving. It's so weird, but so great. All right, we're at 3 minutes. Let's give these guys a whirl. I can take it. Yeah, very green, very lively and fresh. Definitely like a very thin body, like a strong tea, that kind of consistency. There's a nice fermentation note in there. So if I'm gonna try to break down my cupping, this is something, an exercise that I've been trying to in my cupping in general, is like, can I break down my primary flavors, secondary flavors, and separate that from my tertiary flavors, which are coming from the roast. So my caramelization, my milk chocolate, my dark chocolate, baker's chocolate, marshmallow, things like that. I kind of like want to be able to see if I can pull out any other flavors and put words to them besides those, because then I'm just tasting the roast. Can I taste where this coffee is coming from and its process? It's lime, not lemon. So that would be like in your primary, the terroir of it, the varietal, whatever varietal this is. I would like to challenge myself to be like, okay, so now let's see if you can kind of point out, if you can single out flavors to varietal, if you can draw a line from flavor to varietal. A creamy vanilla, lime, a young strawberry. There's like a tartness there. And there's a solid fermentation note. There's a bitterness like a walnut. There's a creaminess to it. I think that's in the processing. It reminds me of the wines that I love that are a little like acid forward. It's really good. Nice tannin to it. It's very juicy. So, and with this being a wash process coffee, I'd be like, I might even believe you if it was natural. There's like a fermentation thing to it. Okay, let's compare it to this Guatemalan. Ooh, wow. All right, this is a bolder cup. Very good, very bold, very like in your face with its flavors. So you got big like jam, berry. It's roastier, so it's like heavier, it's syrupy. Definitely tastes more thick on the palate. Good acidity. Still lingers. It's got a nice strong finish. Ooh, yeah. This one is like the light version of it. Thinner body, but really tannin-like. Just like drying up the tongue and the mouth, the sides of the mouth a little bit. It's nice. All right. And like a very creamy fermentation kind of note in there. I'd call it like an apple pie with some lime. Maybe it's a key lime apple pie thing. It's really nice. It's nice. It's juicy. It reminds me of like a natural processed coffee because I taste that big fermentation note in there, which is interesting. I think from when I was talking to Jared about Chinese coffee, he's like, they like that over there. And I'm like, cool. I mean, I like it. Now the finish is like walnuts. Walnut skins, I think that's where that tannin flavor is kind of coming from too. Like that physiological feeling that I'm getting. But also the finish is walnut. Bitter walnut, the bitterness of walnut. So if we roasted this more, it'd probably get sweeter. It'd probably get more bold. You know, probably get more roastier and things like that. And you could definitely do it, I think, as a medium roast as well. And I think a lot of people would like it for sure. This light processed coffee is really nice. It's tea-like for sure. And it's good. This one is just so much more bolder and more fuller in the mouth for this Guatemalan, which I know is roasted to a lot higher finishing temp, 420, something like that. And that's a cool difference that I'm learning currently in my cupping, which is like finishing temps of coffee. We can still be light roasted, and you could still really play with flavors by manipulating the finishing temp, which is something I learned from that Mill City cupping live thing. But yeah, really cool. Okay, so if we're comparing that to my tasting notes from the first time, what did you guys say? Cranberry, black tea, butterscotch. Okay, butterscotch. So that's butterscotch for you. I call it like a cream. Not cream. What'd I say? I said it was creamy, but I think it's more of like a key lime pie. You know, something like that. Because it's still bright, but there's also this like butter crust, pie crust thing. I like it. It's good. But it's good to have this control here of this bolder coffee. Or much more like, just kind of like in your face with it. Both wash processed coffees, which is like very nice, very cool. I think that we can really play with modulating the flavor, with the finishing temp, which is cool. I'd be interested to know from Chinatown, what was your finishing temp on this coffee? Was it like 87, 89, or am I totally off base? Because this one is like 420, and that's just where I'm getting that number. Okay, so good things. That is your coffee cupped. Thank you very much for sending your coffee. I really appreciate it. If you guys want to send me more coffee to cup, I'm happy to do that. Just hit me up in the DMs. All right, thanks a lot. We'll see you in the next one. Bye.